Risky, isn't it? For a woman like you to be in this chapel. You wouldn't want to be struck by lightning, would you, after sneaking around with my husband?
She'll come for me, but I'll be ready.
Are you insane? You're not baiting that man.
Trina, it's not your call. Tell me that you think that this is a good idea.
It has potential,
Thank you.
but it's missing one key factor.
What?
Me.
Brought back all those old feelings. The ones we never acted on.
I don't think we're the only two people on it.
Well, would you look at that? General Hospital gets up to 3rd place in Mass Soap Opera rankings for December 2022, actually ending a otherwise bad year on a high note. And you want to know why? Well, you see, something I've complained about for so long on General Hospital has been the pacing and how the stories go nowhere on this show. They move so slow. There's so many characters with so much going on. They create new stories long before they wrap up old stories. But in December, at least a couple of stories had some movement, and they were the stories I'm kind of most interested in. The main one, of course, being Spencer and Trina, which is also tied to the Hook. Now, I will say overall, I don't think the Hook story has been good. I feel like for a serial killer story, it's been otherwise boring. And I do think the pacing is the reason for that. But we did at least have some more Hook attacks going on in December. The big thing that happened at the beginning of December was Spencer getting out of prison and running into Trina and Rory on a date. Of course, Spencer not happy seeing those two together because Spencer's been hiding the feelings he has for Trina deep down. But the Rory problem is taken care of when Rory is killed by the Hook. Good riddance to that boring character, honestly. But I still don't hate the fact that they moved Trina on with Rory to give her something to do while Spencer was in prison. Now, of course, the show has done nothing but try and put obstacles in the way of putting Spencer and Trina together, which Rory dying is another possibility of doing that because Trina has to mourn Rory even though she was never into the guy in the first place. But luckily, we got those over-the-top scenes out of the way. And now we have moved on to a point where Spencer is just certain that Esme is the Hook killer and all of these connections to Trina. And he feels bad because he's the one that brought Esme to Port Charles in the first place. And so he wants to set up a plan to try and make himself bait to get the Hook killer out there. But it requires one more thing. Trina being included in this plan, and that makes Spencer and Trina come up with the plan to pretend that they're dating, to try and trap the Hook killer to come after one of them, likely to go after Spencer so that they can catch Esme once and for all. But of course, Esme is being tied up by Spencer's daddy, Nick. Well, not tied up, but locked up. So they have that tied in as well. They also took Elizabeth out of Finn's orbit and put her in the orbit of Nick for now with this plot where they were pretending like they're dating, which that's kind of still a big issue with General Hospital and its writing. When they have so many stories going on that a lot of them have a lot in common. We have both Nick and Elizabeth acting like they're a couple, and also Spencer and Trina acting like they're a couple. Nick and Elizabeth were also acting like Elizabeth was pregnant, and then Elizabeth said she lost the baby with that lie. She lost the fake baby. Either way, though, I do like that they took Elizabeth out of Finn's orbit, thank God, and put her in a more interesting story with Nick and Esme. Because Elizabeth is a character that has been underutilized by this show for far too long now. And it's good to see her kind of back at the forefront. But the main story, of course, that I've been happy about is the Spencer and Trina stuff. To have them fake dating, to give them a reason to, I guess, continue to slowly build this couple up and slowly build towards the kiss. At least it gives them more airtime together. I think that's been one of the biggest detriments to the story overall, is they have kept Spencer and Trina apart on screen. Like, they would barely have scenes together like once a month, once every couple of months for most of this year. So for it to be such a popular couple on the outside, and that was their thing that they were doing, it wasn't smart. And it's no surprise to me that General Hospital's ratings overall in 2022 were bad. They were bad. But they have kind of built back up towards the end, and maybe that's because the show is actually moving stories. What a concept. A better pace. A better pace. I still hate the fact that Spencer and Trina have not even kissed. It's been so long. They had a fake out on New Year's Eve where it seemed like they were going to kiss, and they didn't. And I see some people online being like, that's great writing, leaves you wanting more. I would agree if this was a show that wasn't ran by Frank, who has a poor history with interracial couples and being afraid to go forward with them for too long and treating black characters like they are tokens, then I would say maybe it would be better writing. But because of Frank's history, I can't say that as a fact, because I think Frank is still afraid to move forward with these two as an in-your-face couple. Because he's afraid of middle America and he's afraid of all these old heads who he thinks still watches this show, when in reality, Frank needs to worry about the younger people that watch this show and worry about growing the audience in the first place. I can't stand producers that get stuck in these niche audiences. Like, of course, the soap opera audience is niche, but you can grow it, especially in this day and age with streaming. You can grow it. So stop being afraid of losing the old heads and start actually being concerned about gaining new fans and keeping the younger fans happy who will continue to watch this show going forward for who knows how long. And no, I'm not saying the old heads' opinions don't matter, because that's a lie as well, and they've probably been loyal to the show for so long. But also, those same people have a very bad history with soap operas, complaining about progress on social levels when it comes to interracial couples, when it comes to gay couples, when it comes to a lot of social issues. You always get this pushback from the old fans on Facebook. It's always Facebook. They were complaining about the person in drag on New Year's Eve. Like, I can't. But let's not turn this too political, even though I could go down that rabbit hole all the time. Another story that could be so much better and should be so much better is the Joss and Dex affair. The writing for this story is still just not there for me. It could be so much better, and I could be more down for it if like I've said last month, if Cam actually had a point of view in the story. Like, I get that Cam is on recurring now because of school and because the actor wants to do stuff with his band, but the little time you have him on, a few times a month, you can get his point of view and actually make the story better. But instead it's written like Joss doesn't care about Cam at all, in my opinion. And they also always keep Joss holier than thou and acting like she is just a saint all the time, and she's always giving everyone else these riot acts about what they're doing wrong, and then she's doing this wrong. I think the writing just continues to make Joss so unlikable that it's hard for me to stay into this story. I was into it at first, but the writing has not been there for it. And honestly, the chemistry between Dex and Joss isn't that good. It's okay. It's better than Joss and Cam, but that's not saying much, to be honest. But those are the three okay stories, or borderline good stories. I like Esme throwing herself off the parapet to get away from Nick, continuing to be crazy, and we also found out that she is the daughter of Heather, which is, I guess, is a decent tie-in. I still need to see Esme pay for some of the things she's done. I don't think this has been that good of a way to see Esme pay, to have her fake her death and then come back and be locked up by Nick. It's not doing enough for me, but it has been entertaining. The other stories, the writing in a lot of these other stories just still isn't there, you know, like Willow's sick and dying of cancer, but they have Michael seeming like he doesn't care most of the time. Michael is still way more concerned about taking down Sonny for the dumbest of reasons. Michael never in his history has been this hardcore against Sonny, but now that he has the dumbest of reasons to be hardcore against Sonny, he's more concerned about that than his possibly dying wife and baby. So that's another bad writing that it makes Michael look terrible. Similar to Jocelyn. Both of those characters currently look terrible because of the writing. Britt is about to die likely or leave the show either way. Britt got this really huge goodbye with a picture montage and all. I guess Britt is a more popular character than I think she should be or is. I've never cared that much about Britt as a character. And the pairing with Cody didn't work either. But one thing the writers have been actually working on, another reason why I put General Hospital higher, is because I do feel like they are breaking up couples that didn't have chemistry that they put together in the first place. Elizabeth and Finn, Cody and Britt, Maxie and Austin. Like, these are couples that they tried to make happen so hard over this past year and failed miserably because they didn't have chemistry. And then meanwhile, they continued to take characters that had chemistry and keep them apart, like Spencer and Trina, like Chase and Brooklyn. It's been ass backwards. So yeah, I mean, overall, I do think GH is improving, and that's why I have it in third place. I even like stuff like Valentine and Anna, even though they're barely on, and it's not all that interesting with Anna on the run because that's another slow-moving story going nowhere. Victor's entire arc has been spinning its wheels for months and months and months. So the show still has a ton to fix, and I don't know if it's going to stay this high going forward. I don't have a lot of faith in Frank, and I think the writers are very amateurish with their pacing, even with putting couples together that have no chemistry and hammering that into the ground when it's clearly not working. They even get a lot of continuity wrong. I recognize on episodes sometimes one episode a character will have a conversation and then the next episode is like that conversation never happened and they're talking to somebody else like that conversation never happened. That's been happening a lot over these past few months. But stories are moving. I love Spencer and Trina. I think I would be surprised if more people are not behind Spencer and Trina at this point. The chemistry is still there between those two. They're becoming a very popular couple, which is something the American soap operas have been missing for years. So, like I've been saying since I started these rankings, General Hospital always has so much potential with this team, with the production, with the writers, but they usually waste that potential with bad decisions. In December, they started making more good decisions. Can they keep that up? I don't have faith, but I hope so.